What's going on, guys? So welcome back to this video where we are going to take our application one step further. So what we are going to do is we are going to start building the list of challenges. And of course, this list is going to be dynamic. It is going to be interacting with the backend server that we have built. So for those who are new to this channel, and if you're watching this video for the first time, let me set some context for you all. This video is a part of a Spring Boot series where we are building an application using Spring Boot and React, like in a full stack way from scratch. So we'll be building this application, and in the end, we are going to deploy this application onto AWS server so that you can share this application with the entire world. So that's what it's about. If you are interested in checking out the entire series, head over to the description to get the link of the playlist. So you can watch the earlier videos and then come back and watch this to get some more context as to what we'll be doing in this class. So talking about this video, in this particular video, we are going to be working on the list, like I said, and that list is going to be dynamic. It is going to interact. So first of all, it is going to be rendered in React. We're going to make use of React, and then that list is going to interact with our backend server. Now we have a server up and running, and we are making use of Spring Boot there. We also have a database. So the entire flow will be from your front end. You are going to call the backend APIs, and backend APIs are going to interact with the database. That is how it's going to work. So in the process, you're going to learn how you can make calls across domains. So here the front end is hosted on a separate server, and backend is of course a different server. So these are two different servers, right? Two different domains. So how would you interact? What errors would you face? And how would you prepare your application for that? So all of that will be covered in this video. Be sure to watch it till the end. And also, like I have always been saying, I get a lot of views from people who have not subscribed. I don't know why you all are not subscribing. Hit that subscribe button, press the bell notification icon. This gesture indicates support towards me, my content that I have been sharing freely over here. And if you want to support a creator like me, this would be the best way to support right now, because this directly impacts the ability of me bringing in such amazing free content for you all. So do subscribe, like, and in the comments, let me know from where you are joining and what do you do right now? What's your name? Just introduce yourself. I would like to know more about you. So without a further ado, let's jump right in. So we have built some decent stuff with React, and you can see we now understand the basics and the working of React, right? And that too in a hands-on way. Now, what we want to do is we have our challenge application with some of the APIs that we have built. And what we need to do is we need to add a front end of this sort. Okay, so this is a PNG image. Okay, it's an image. And if you see, if I zoom in a bit, you can see here I have a header. I have a basic form. Okay, it's not a fancy UI first of all. It's a basic simple form that I have, which allows me to add a challenge. So here I need to type in month. Here I can type in the description. I need to submit. Okay. On submission, the challenge should appear here in the list. So this is the list that is showing the list of challenges month-wise that have been added into my application. And when I say application, this is the front end. Okay. And this will interact with the backend. Now, where is the backend? So this is a backend that we have built. Okay. This is service. This is repository. We have these endpoints that are our controllers. Okay. So this is the backend, and it has H2 database. So what is happening is from here, this is the front end. You query or you submit anything. This is the React application. So the changes or whatever interaction you do with the front end is being handled with your React application. React application will interact with the backend, which is the Spring Boot server, the code running on Spring Boot. Okay. And then this particular changes are being stored or managed within the database by your application with the help of repository layer that we have created. I hope this makes sense. right? So this is going to be the entire flow, and we are going to build something like this. So what we need to do is, we already have some code here. So either you can start a new project and start fresh, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to start making changes here itself in our application, and we are going to build the functionality. So the first functionality that we would be building is going to be about listing the challenges. So what we are going to do is, so forget this form. First of all, we'll build this in the second part, but for now we'll first list the challenges. So we'll go stepwise. This is a second step, adding the form and getting the changes added to the database. The first step is like to list the challenge. So we are going to list the challenge right from the backend. And when I say backend, they are being fetched from the database with the help of the APIs. Okay. So I'll come over here. I'll begin making the changes right from app.js. Okay. So I'll remove this particular component, greetings. Okay. Because we no longer need it. All right. Here in the app, I'll also get rid of these things. Okay. We are not now printing in greetings. We need to show the list of challenges. All right. So what I would do is, I have a div here. Okay. This is a div. I would have h1. So I'll start writing some simple HTML tags. Okay. Here. And I'll say monthly challenges. This is the header. The moment I save the file, and if I come here, I see this header here, right? So there's an auto refresh, which is nice. Just make sure that you save the files after making the change. If you don't save, and if you switch to the browser and you wonder like why changes are not reflecting, of course, it's because you have not saved the file. So I've made this mistake a lot of times. So this is something that you need to know. Now, what we need to do is, here, we need to populate the list of the challenge. Okay. Now, in order to populate the list, we can have that as the component, right? So what I would do is, here, I would create a new file, okay, within component, and I can call this as challenge list.js, something like this. So this is the file that is going to help me like manage the entire list of challenges, and I will be controlling how my challenges are being displayed right from this particular file. So here I'm going to go into greeting.js. Okay, so we don't need state over here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm simply going to write a function like so. Okay, the function name will be challenge list, something like this. Over here, I can like remove the list of parameters. Okay, I can say return, and here I'm simply going to have a div like this. Okay, and I can say over here div list over here, something like this. Okay, and I'll add a semicolon here as a closure, and I'll come back here, okay, in our app.js, and here I can simply get challenge list like this. Okay, and you'll see, okay, so there's no import added. Let me see whether this code is working. Okay, so it says challenge list is not defined because there's no import added. So I need to import this. So I'll say import, and I'll say challenge list from, I can say here, components. Okay, one second, components / challenge list. So this is the syntax, and you need to end this with the semicolon. Okay, so it's saying challenge list was not found in components. All right, so what is the issue? Let's come here. Okay, so the issue is because we are not exporting this component. So this is something you need to do, export, and I need to say default, and I need to say challenge list like this. Now if you come to the browser, you'll see that you can see the list. Okay, how are you seeing what's happening? This is the JS file. What's happening? We are creating a function which is simply returning a div. Okay, nothing complex. Here we are having this function app where we are just showing the header and the list of challenges. Right now this is not a list, this is like a simple like component usage that we are doing over here. Okay, and we are displaying. Also, you can get rid of this end tag. Actually, we don't need this, so I can just remove this. But you just need to add a / here like this. Now, if you come back, the code has not changed, okay, because you have not got any error sort of. It's working perfectly fine. Now, what we will do is we need to have the list of challenges, right? So what I will do is I will get a state created. Okay, so I'll say constant, and I will have challenges. I'll have the, okay, not message, it's set challenges. Okay, and here I'll say use state like this. Okay, and I'll have it initialized to an empty array. Okay, so this is the list of challenges that we are having. Now what we need to do is this list, or whatever this challenge is holding, we need to display it within this particular code, right? Because this is the code that is responsible for rendering challenges onto the UI, right? So what I will do is I'll pass this as prop. Okay, and to pass this as prop, I'll say challenges is equal to challenges, something like this, right? This is done. Now I'll come here, and within this piece of code, what I need to do is I need to accept the challenge. Okay, so I'll say challenges like this. Okay, I'll save this. Okay, and now I need to iterate through the list of challenges, and I need to render it onto the UI. Okay, so what I will do is here, okay, here I'll say challenges, and I need to make use of map, and I'll say challenge, and like this. Okay, and I'll move this div inside here like so. Okay, and instead of just displaying list over here, okay, I can like say over here, one second, I'll say challenge dot. So what we are doing over here is we are having this particular object. Okay, we have challenges, which is having the list. So this is an array, you can say, and it's having the list of challenges that you have. Okay, then you're making use of map over here. Okay, now map is a function. This is a function in JavaScript. This is JavaScript code, and this is used to iterate over each item in an array and return a new array with the transformed item. Okay, now here what we are doing is we are iterating over each challenge object in the challenge array. Okay, with the help of this map function. Okay, then what we are doing is we are having a div. Okay, and here we can add a key. All right, so I'll say key, and here I'll say challenge.id. So challenge is here. This challenge object is having ID and name inside it. These are two properties that this array, like every object in this array, is having. Okay, we have not defined this yet, like ID and name right now, but we will soon go to like app.js and get these two created. Okay, and what we are doing over here is we have added this property called key over here, and this is being used to uniquely identify each rendered elements in React. Okay, so this key element is used to keep track of the elements ID. Okay, so every challenge here is then marked as unique over here. Okay, so I'll save this right now. Okay, and I guess this should render the challenge onto the front end. But let me come over here to app.js, and what I will do is I don't have an initial value defined for the list of challenges, right? So what you can do is you have an option to add or initialize the starting list of challenge. Okay, so what I can do is within this array I can have the objects. So I have this first challenge. Okay, add a comma, I'll say name, I will call this as first challenge. Okay, or I can just say description. So our challenges have month. So wait a minute. So if you come over here to backend, our challenges have month and description. Okay, so instead of name, I can have description like so. Okay, and I can say first challenge description over here, like so. Okay, and here I can say month colon, I can add something like this, and here I'll say January, like this. Okay, this is done, and I can have one more challenge added over here. So this is just a static list right now. Okay, we have not connected this to the backend, which we'll be soon doing, but you need to understand how this rendering process is working, and then we'll understand how you can get this connected to the backend. Okay, so you can see. So these are the two challenges that we have initialized the challenge object with. Okay, now what is happening? Challenges has two challenges with these attributes like ID, month, and description. Okay, then you're passing this as a property to the challenge list. Then you are getting this in the challenge list, and then here you are rendering it. And how are you rendering? You're accessing each property that you have within every challenge. Okay, if you save this and if you come over here, okay, we are not seeing any output. We need to check why this is not being rendered. So what I will do is I'll right click, I'll say inspect, I'll go to console. Now here in console, you're getting a clear warning and a clear message that two children are having same keys, and keys should be unique so that components maintain the identity across updates. Okay, it's pretty clear. So here we are making use of key. Okay, we are assigning a key which is challenge.id, and probably this is not unique. Okay, see over here, this is not unique. So accidentally, because I copied, I forgot to change this. So change this to 2 and come over here. Okay, and refresh this. The error goes away. Okay, but there's another problem. We are still not seeing any challenge being rendered, and also there is no error as well. Okay, so what I will do is I'll go to elements, I'll go to body, I'll see how the HTML is being rendered. You can see the rendering is happening. So after H1, you can see here we have H1, and then we have the list of challenge here. So this list is being rendered with two divs. So these two divs are because we have two challenge, right? So this is being rendered, but the thing is it has no contents. Okay, now it has no content, so we need to see what's happening. So here we have month and description. If you come over here, okay, we are not rendering month over here. We are accessing name, and there is no such thing called name over here. Okay, so if I change this to month, it should work, and you can see it's working fine now, right? So you can see now challenge being rendered. So if you quickly go through the code, what we are doing is within app.js, we are having a state which is maintaining the list of challenges. Okay, we have initialized this to an array of two objects. The object has two attributes, okay, or three attributes I should say, ID, month, and description. Okay, ID, month, and description. And if you scroll down here, we have created a component called challenge list, which is like getting the challenges rendered. And to get the challenge rendered, we are passing this array to the challenge list, and the list is taking this array, going through the every object in the array with the help of the map function, and it is rendering each using the def, as you can see over here. Okay, pretty simple. You can also like copy this code. So I can copy this code here. Okay, you can come over here, I can comment this, and you can render it over here. You can directly paste this code here. Okay, this will also make sure that you get the same output, right? But the benefit of having the component based approach is that you can use this list at different places, right? So having components makes your code easy to understand. Okay, so if I do Control Z, this approach makes it easy to understand because you know, okay, challenge list, and this is managing the list. So if you want to use the same list at multiple places, you can of course do that. And even the code looks really organized. Now what I can do is right now I'm just rendering the month of the challenge, right? So challenge can actually get complex. Like in future I can have month. Right now I have month and description along with ID. In future I can have a lot of other things, right, within a challenge. So this single row right now, which is just displaying January, February, this can actually get a bit more complex where you want to work with multiple stuff. So what you can do over here is I will add one more file over here. I'll call this file as challenge. We can have challenge.js. So this is a file that can represent a single challenge. Okay. And what I can quickly do, I'll quickly create a function. I'll say challenge here. And this particular function will have a parameter like this, challenge. So it will have one challenge that it will accept. It will return something. Okay. I'm going to have a return statement ending with a semicolon. And here, what I can do is I can say I have a div like this. Within div, I'm going to have a h5 tag. Okay. So we'll try to keep it very simple. I'll say challenge.month like this. And I'll come down here just after this. I'm going to have a p tag. Okay. And I can say challenge description like this. Okay. And I'll close this curly brace like so. Okay. And I also need to add an export statement. Okay. I can say export default challenge like this. See, I'll keep capital like so. I'll save this. Now what I can do is in this list, instead of rendering a challenge by month, okay, I can tweak this code a little bit. What I would do is I'll simply get this component to work. So I can say like challenge like this. Okay, challenge. So this is the component, and the moment I pressed enter, you can see this import statement was added right at the top. Okay. And I can say key over here, and we can like get this key removed from div and we can add it over here. And here I can say challenge is equal to challenge like so. Okay, this is done. I'll just take this to the next line so that it's visible to you all what's happening. I can get rid of this div now. Okay, I can like remove this, I can remove this. Okay, this is done. And I would close this over here. Okay, this is closed like this. Now if you come over here, okay, we get an error. What is the error? Let us see. It's not being rendered. Okay, why it's not being rendered? Let me see. Okay, so here I'm like adding two curly braces, which I can get rid of. If I save this and if I come here, you can see it's working fine. So you have January, first challenge description, February, first challenge description, and so on. Okay, of course, this is not looking good right now, not as we saw in the UI here. Okay, this is how it should actually be shown. But the point is, okay, we are seeing data being shown over here. Okay, that's not an issue. Now, what is happening is this is being fetched from like a list, a static list. What we need to do now is, since we are able to display the list of challenges, we now need to link this to the backend. Okay, so if you scroll up here, we need to get rid of this, and probably we need to have backend connectivity so that we are calling the APIs. So which API we'll call here? So here, if you go to our controller in IntelliJ, you need to head over to get mapping and get all challenges. Okay, so it's /challenges, localhost 8080/challenges is what is going to give us the list of all the challenges that exist in our application. Okay, so we'll come over here. Okay, and we'll make some further changes to get that functionality built. So now we need to get rid of the static elements here, and we need to add the dynamicity, right? So we need to interact with the backend. Now, how are we going to interact with the backend? So for this, we are going to make use of something called as use effect hook. You can see this use effect. Now, this is a hook in React, like use state. So like we have use state. Okay, we have use effect. Use effect allows us to perform the side effects in your components. Okay, what is side effects? Now, side effect is any such thing or any such change that you are making in the system's state or in the application state that involves the interaction with the outer world. So understand this. Now here, this is a React application. We have these components that are being rendered. But in one of the components, you need to interact with the outside world, right? Wherein you want to interact with our backend service that we have created. Now, this backend service is not the part of React application. React application is running separately. Our Spring Boot server is separate, right? So this involves interacting with the outside world, which is nothing but our backend APIs. And that is where we need to make use of use effect so that we can get the data from the outside world and render it seamlessly. So if you add use effect, it will be imported over here, as you can see, with use state. All right. Now here, let us take a look at the syntax. So what I'm going to do is here, so you can see over here, this accepts a function. Okay. So if you hover on this, you can see it will accept a function. Okay. And that function should contain the effect full code. Now, what does effect full code means? The code that is interacting with the outside world. That is what is effect full code. All right. Now I'll have this over here, and here, this is the code for function, and here I'll have a empty array. Okay. Now empty array is nothing but the dependency list, as you can see over here. So this is the effect callback. You can see this is a callback, the first parameter. Okay. This is the effect callback, and then you have the dependency array. Now what is a dependency array? Dependency array is an array. So here see. So if this array is present, the effect will activate only if the values in the list change. Okay, so this is important. We'll add an empty array here, and now over here within this particular effect over here, I'm going to add a asynchronous call using a function to the backend API. So I'm going to say constant. Here I'm going to say fetch challenges. This is going to be async. Okay, and here I'm going to say something like this. Okay, and here I'm going to have the code. Okay, so this part is going to have the code to fetch the challenges. Okay, and what I'm going to do is here I'm going to call the fetch challenge, something like this. So this is a very simple code that we have written. We are creating a arrow function here, okay, which is called fetch challenges. This function will be responsible for interacting with our backend to fetch the challenges, and we'll get the response over here, okay, and we'll deal with it. Okay, whatever challenges we are getting, we'll deal with it, and dealing with it meaning we'll set it on the interface. And here in the end, the last line, we are calling this particular function that we created. Okay, this is important, otherwise the function is not being called. Now here within fetch challenges, we need to make a API call. Now to make the API call, we are going to make use of Axios, okay, or Axios. There are different pronunciation for this, okay, but what is this? This is a popular JavaScript library for making HTTP requests from your JavaScript code. Okay, it's very simple. You can make HTTP requests to the backend code. So I'll just type in the code, and then I'll show you also how you can install this particular library if you don't have it installed already. So I'm going to say constant. Okay, here I'm going to say response. So I'm going to get a response. I'm going to make use of this keyword await, and I'm going to say Axios dot get. Okay, and I'm going to pass in the URL here. The URL will go here. Okay, and I also need to import this. Okay, this particular thing. So I'll come here at the top. I can say import Axios from something like this. Okay, I'll save this. Okay, so here I'm getting this error. This is not found. So if this is not found, what you need to do is you need to head over to terminal, and you can say npm install Axios like this. So this is the command. Like I said, it's a JavaScript library. So we'll make use of this command to get it added. And if you come here, okay, I'm getting an error. So it says can't resolve HTTP in, okay. So let me scroll down. Okay, it's because I have not added the URL. So here what I've done is I have simply, like, just to demonstrate, I've simply made use of this line over here. So let me explain what this means. So I'm making use of response. So whatever response I'm getting from here, I'm storing it in response object. Here I'm making use of await. Now await is used to wait for a promise that is returned by get over here, axis.get. So this is returning a promise and we are waiting for that promise to settle. Okay, so what this means is this line pauses the execution until the request completes, at which point the response holds result. So until the response holds result, we are waiting. Okay, and here I need to add the API. So I need to say HTTP and I need to say localhost colon 8080 / challenges. Just make sure that this URL is correct. So what you can do is you can copy this URL, you can head over to the browser and just paste and see whether you're getting you can get empty array if your backend or the database does not have any challenges, or you might get a few challenges. Okay, so just make sure that this works. Just paste it over here, save it, come back. So once this is done, you should see this kind of a error response, which is expected. Okay, so this means the call is happening, but there is some sort of a network error. Okay, our APIs are working. So what is this network error? Now we'll right click, we'll go to inspect, and if you go to console to learn more about the error, you'll see access to HTTP request over here is blocked. So this is where we are making the call, and this is from where we are making the call, and it has been blocked by CORS policy. All right, now what is CORS over here? So CORS is nothing but it stands for cross origin resource sharing. Okay, so the full form of CORS is cross origin resource sharing, and it is a security feature that is implemented by web browsers to prevent malicious websites from making unauthorized requests to other website. Okay, now what I mean over here is, here we have our backend server as separate. Okay, so this is the backend server, localhost 8080, right? And we have the front-end server separate, which is localhost 3000. Okay, now from one server to another server, we are making a request. So the thing is localhost 8080, which is the backend server, allowing our front-end server to connect and fetch the data. Okay, so there is no such allowance that we have done or we have added in the code, and that is why by default it is blocking, saying that no access control allow origin. You can see this. Okay, header is present in the requested resource. So for this to work, we need to make a small change, right, in our Spring Boot application. We need to add a single line. So we'll switch over to our Spring Boot application, and right here in the controller, okay, since we want to allow the request to the entire controller, we are going to say cross origin. Okay, and here with this annotation, we are allowing the request from our front end, and we need to also mention over here, okay, HTTP localhost, okay, something like this, colon 3000, because this is where our front end server is running. Okay, you can directly copy the URL from here, or you can copy the URL from here. Just make sure you copy this and you add it this way. So cross origin, and within this you have one attribute which says origin is equal to, and you specify the URL. Save this, rerun the application. Okay, now after rerunning, what we are doing is, because we have now allowed cross origin request from our front end server, it should work for us. So here if I refresh, you can see this is working. Okay, there's no error as such. We are seeing a static list being displayed right now, which is absolutely fine. Okay, what we need to do is, we don't need any static data now because we are trying to interact with backend. So what I will do is I'll just get rid of this. You can get rid of this. Okay, if you save this, okay, this is done. All right, and we are fetching the challenge. We have the response now. Okay, what you can do is, you can, like, let me print the response. Okay, and I'll simply say console.log Okay, and let us print response. So let us see how response is being fetched. Okay, just to understand. So here you will see, if I refresh, response is being fetched and printed. And here you have this data. Okay, so this is a response object and you have data within which you should see your challenges. So let me add a challenge. Okay, so there's no challenge. So what I'll do is I'll create a challenge. Okay, if you try to get, you have one challenge. Okay, now if you come over here, let me refresh, you should see one element in data over here. Okay, so data is where the challenges is being fetched, right? So if you say response.data here, you should see challenges being fetched. Okay, so if I say response.data and if I save this, okay, you can see this being fetched. Okay, so now what I can do is I have the data that is being fetched from the backend server. So I can come over here and instead of printing it over here this way, I can simply say set challenges. What is set challenges? It is this function here. Okay, I can say set challenges and here I can say response.data like this. Okay, now if you come over here, you can see the front end. You're seeing March create a new app, and this is coming in from where? You can see March create a new app, and this is exactly what you have added in the backend. You can see March create a new app, and this is completely dynamic now. If you add more challenge, so if I say January create a new website, for example, okay, and if I send this challenge added, let me get this. You can see March and January are two like additions that we have done. Okay, if I refresh, you can see March and January. So this is now completely dynamic. Okay, this is helping you to fetch data from your backend. Okay, so what we have done is, okay, this is not looking pretty. That's a disclaimer, which is absolutely fine. We will build this slowly. But the point is you understand how we are able to fetch the data. Okay, it's not looking good. That's okay. We'll improve this and we'll get to a point where we have a decent looking UI, which looks like this. But people, it's really important you understand how we fetch the data and how we reached until here. Okay, so learning step by step is the best way to learn if you're a beginner or if you're looking to learn something new, so that you don't give up, you don't get overwhelmed and you don't give up. Okay, so here, just to summarize, we have this app function. Okay, this app component where we have this state for challenges. We have this use effect hook that we are making use of. Okay, we missed a semicolon here. I'll add this. We are like returning this challenge list over here, which is accepting the challenge prop. And here, if you come, okay, we are simply displaying the challenge with the help of the challenge component again, which we have created, which is representing a single challenge in our application. Okay, so yeah, that's about how things are working so far. And one thing to note over here is challenges is being fetched from the backend, right? So challenges has a month. So if you come over here, challenges has these three properties. Okay, so just make sure, since it's being fetched from the backend and backend is defining what is being returned to the front end. So backend is sending it as month, description and ID, right? So when rendering, you should have month, description, and if you want to make use of ID, you should make use of .id. Okay, if you try to change the name over here, because this is not matching from the response that backend is sending, okay, if there is a mismatch, then you will not be seeing things rendered properly. Okay, I hope this was useful and I hope you have a clarity of how we have been able to connect front end with the backend.